I'm Bill Leonards from Portland, Oregon. And it's really nice to be down here. It is just how you imagine it to be in Portland right now. And this is just how I imagine it would be right here in Cupertino. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm with the consultant team working for the city on the project, but actually, we're working for you. We're working for the community. We're working for the best outcome. We've always done that. The people that I'm working with, check us out. All of our professional lives, we're working for the best outcome of our projects. Somebody says, who's paying you? Yeah, somebody's paying me. Somebody always pays me. You know? I hope. But regardless of who's paying us, we're working for the best outcome for you. There's this little analogy. This will only take a second, Mayor. He's going to get up here. Little analogy that I use sometimes. We, the consultant team, and there's Dan Perolik over here. He's my colleague here. He's actually the lead consultant. I'm only up here because I do this public meeting thing. And there's this analogy that a friend of mine used once about taxi drivers. So imagine that you're in, have anybody been in a London taxi driver? So these taxi drivers are like trained, okay? They go to school, they like are really good taxi drivers. And so in a way, we're your taxi driver. Okay, hop in the back, tell us where you want to go. I want to go to Piccadilly Circus. Taxi driver, you know the best way to get there. Now, part of it is that the taxi driver knows, unlike some, I don't want to offend any Uber or Lyft drivers in the room, but London taxi drivers know where the potholes are, where the construction's happening, the best route because of the constraints, because of the, if you will, data. And they'll get here. So it's a little bit like that's our relationship, I propose. Our relationship is that we're going to listen to you, all of you, see where you want to go. And I know some of you want to go this way, and some want to go that way, and some want to go that way, and some want to go that way. But I do believe that there's a place in there somewhere that's going to work out. So that's Dan, my job, Dan, myself, and Matali, who's here, and Aaron, who's here. Okay? That's kind of our role here. The purpose of the meeting, before Mayor Paul welcomes us, I just wanted to say the purpose of tonight's meeting is to listen, to exchange, and discover. We want to tonight create a shared understanding among all of us, you and us, of the purpose and process, community values, issues, and viewpoints about this project. We are taking in information. We haven't started design yet. We're not going to start design till April. We're going to be doing a lot of listening. I'm going to tell you how that's done. The desired outcomes of tonight's meeting is that shared understanding of the project and purpose, the brainstorm of values and visions, which are up there already. We've got our brainstorm going. We're going to do maps with list of your current state of the project. You are the experts tonight. You know this place. Tell us what we need to know about this place. Current condition. Map number 2, future state. Where are we going? What's the future vision? Those maps. That's what we want to get out of it tonight. This is all going to be gathered and put into the pot. Ground rules. So many people here tonight. In fact, unbelievably fantastic that you're all here. In Portland, if it was this nice tonight, no one would show up. They'd be out walking around. Every one of you, no matter how you feel, no matter what your viewpoint is here because you are passionate about your community, and I honor that. I honor your passion, the energy you're putting in, the time you're putting in. Everybody is honored for that. So let's all work together tonight. I have this one called Talk with Your Pen. And guess what? You've already done that. So talk with your pen or it gets lost. We're going to gather up every piece of paper in this room and record it. So, and listen, respect all ideas. There probably are going to be some different ideas at your table than yours. Respect it for tonight. No bad ideas tonight. Everyone participates, no one dominates. Work as a team. And cell phones silent. So, I'll just where's Mayor Paul? Sorry. He's going to welcome us. We always want to have the person who's the head of the city welcome us, so thank you for doing that. Mayor Paul.
Thanks. Thanks very much. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. Very much appreciated. I want to thank my fellow council member and Vice Mayor Rod Sinks for being here today. Thank you, Rod. We also have council member Stephen Scharf as well, so thank you for joining us. And Savita or Barry, if you're here, well, thank you very much for all being here. I'll keep my remarks very brief. I've spoken quite enough in the last week or so. So I want to say thank you. The Vallco space represents an invaluable opportunity for us as a community to get together and consider what we'd like to see in the context of what is feasible and what is needed. And I have recently spoken at our State of the City address to broader needs. And in an effort not to be misconstrued, one of those broader needs is indeed housing, and I believe that. And my hope is that everyone, from all the various perspectives, keeps an open mind and engages in the process in a good faith and honest manner. To me, that means being open and responsible in a manner that adheres to practical requirements and fairness. Affordable housing is critically needed in our area. I'm proud of our community for advocating for years now for a Palmer fix, and it is a tremendous opportunity that we have here to deliver real relief to those who need it the most. And so thank you for coming out tonight, and I thank you for keeping an open and fair-minded approach to this conversation and opportunity. Good luck, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, AV person, am I supposed to use this one or this one? This one. Turn this off? Okay. Dan, are we all good? Okay. Okay. I'm going to do a little piece on the process right now. And I'm aware that I'm in the middle of a place where process is a big deal here. Process is a big deal. I'm a student of process. I'm an architect, urban designer. You'll see in a minute the background of this work, but I'm a student of process. And I'm aware of that down here, there's this thing that's cooked up at Stanford called design thinking. Anybody hear of that one? By the way, how many engineers are in the room? Don't worry, I'm not going to tell an engineer joke. Just checking. You guys know about integrated design, right? Design thinking, integrated design, all that? Well, this comes from that. This is basically a process which you'll find very familiar. I just want to tell you that it is a process that Aaron Letzenheiser and I developed at a nonprofit that we created called the National Charrette Institute, which is now housed at Michigan State University. And for 15 years, we've been teaching this process around the country. It's about building trust. We wrote a book, I don't mind telling you. Second edition, we're going to get it in the library pretty soon over here, called the Charrette Handbook. And you're going to find out what this word means in just a second. It is taught at that other university at the other end of the nation, Harvard University, where I teach this 12 years running now. In fact, we call it NCI Charrettes plus design thinking. So all I'm trying to do is tell you that this process is not something that we just cooked up last night. This is something that has been developed over time, field tested, and we feel will serve this community well. So you can go to these websites, find out about this in more detail, but actually you're going to live it in the next few months. This process begins with starting up. Why we're doing the project, what are we doing, who needs to be involved and how. And that's where we are right now on this diagram on the left. Then we're building readiness for the design process. So that second piece is being people ready, data ready, and place ready. We're building trust. We're talking to as many people as we can. I've already talked to individually 15, 16 people. We're going to talk to many more people over the hundreds of hours that we spend with you. We're having interviews, meetings. We're doing data research that Dan will talk about. Then we move into a charrette phase that I'm going to explain, which is the design phase. So all that pre-work done up front, right? The integrated design people call it go slow to go fast. So we're going to go slow to go fast. We're going to do the charrette where we embed you in the design process and then finally come out at the end with the plan. But to put it really simply, tonight is a bit like this. The current state, where it is now, the future state, where you want to go, and the specific plan to get you there. So, with the current state, we're having public meetings. Tonight, we're going to do an exercise here where we look at the current state. We're doing interviews. We're going to have a very robust website that involves anybody in this conversation. We're going to do research. I think a lot of you care about the data, right? See the nodding? I've heard, just show me the data. I know a lot of you are engineers. We're going to show you the data. And then we're going to do the charrette. 2 charrettes, actually, which are design events to move us to the future state. So tonight, I'm going to ask you guys about what the current state is, and already, where are we going to with the future state? Are you ready over there yet, the vision wall?
Yeah, I mean, a few things come to the top.
Okay. I'm going to ask the vision wall people what the biggest things are that we're hearing tonight already.
Well, the top 3 that we're seeing. The top 3 that have emerged as the most prominent ideas are affordable housing, retail, and a community gathering space.
The biggest ones?
Biggest
But there's
ones.
lots of them.
But there are a lot of them, and we'll go through it in more detail. But those pop out, especially affordable housing.
Affordable housing is big. Give me 3 more. Retail? Okay. Retail is a big one.
Open space and parks.
Open space and parks.
Transit and walkability.
Yeah. These are not winners and losers, by the way. Not winners and losers. These are just what are the biggest ideas. Okay. So we're going to record, some person is going to record every one of those, and we're going to get them on the website. You'll be able to see what they are, be able to comment on them. Here's the website, by the way. If you haven't been there, it's Envision Vallco. And we're building it right now. There's already plenty of information on there about the events that are going to be happening and so forth. Okay, I want to tell you about this charrette thing. I guess actually I'm going to go to the story. Okay, here's the story. This is a true story. The École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, the art school in Paris in the 1800s, the professors would send around a little cart to pick up the students' work. The students would have to do a project really fast. How many people have gone through charrettes in their training? Anybody around here? Architects? Okay, right? Landscape architects? We used to call them all-nighters. Kind of what it was? It comes from that time when the kids had to work really hard to get their designs done, and the professor would bring a little cart around to pick up their work. And the kids were still on whatever stimulants they had in Paris in those days, on the cart, working all the way to the professor's house to present their project. I remember when I was in college, I was up all night and the professors came in, I was still gluing the trees on the model, right? So back in the 80s, a bunch of us came up with this idea of using the charrette process in public involvement processes and bring people into the charrette, bring them into the design moment. So, how many of you heard this word charrette at all? Okay. Okay. There's a lot of myths about it. And having a Charrette Institute, I was constantly correcting the myths. One is that it's a one-day workshop. It's not. It's multiple days. Two is that the outcome is predetermined by the design team. Not true. We come in with a blank slate. Watch us. Make sure we don't do that. And also, the other myth is that it runs 5 days. I have to quit my job to participate. Well, you don't have to quit your job to participate. We're going to have certain times when you can come at the right moments. So it is a co-design process. It has at least 3 feedback loops in it. It is integrated design. It results in a feasible plan, and actually it's very energetic, it's very creative, and it actually is a lot of fun, which is why I keep doing it. It embeds people in the design process. We're starting that tonight. The roles. We're the taxi drivers, the Charrette team. Dan's going to talk more about who they are. Stakeholders. That's you, everybody. There are going to be, in each charrette, probably about 60 hours of open studio time, allowing people to come and go at different times. But there will be prearranged times. There are going to be big public meetings like this. There are going to be smaller meetings for special groups. And they're going to be stop by the studio anytime and talk to us. So we really get worn out over these 5 days, but it involves a lot of time to bring you into the design process. The process goes through feedback loops. It starts with a visioning. And then, as the design process works forward, the design team works on alternative concepts. Number 2, we feed those concepts back to you in a public meeting only 2 nights later. Feedback, a lot of ideas, what we've heard. We have a conversation about it. We find out what's working, what's not working. We talk about the data, which is performing, what's not performing. We go back, work on a preferred plan. And actually, our process is going to break this up into 2 charrettes. Charrette 2 will start there in the middle and take the preferred plan into a final plan. A simple way to look at it is that there are these feedback loops. Feedback loops which are key to engineering, key to good design, key to design thinking, key to any of these things. As any of you in business know, the feedback loops, the quick feedback loops with the people reduces, what's the big word? Rework. Does that sound familiar? Toyota calls it waste. How can we reduce the rework? How do you reduce that? Getting the right people, the right data at the right moment. Otherwise, your design is not well informed and you go backwards, right? So our job is to keep moving with minimal rework. And that's what this is. I'm going to be the moderator of that. I'm going to make sure that if we miss somebody, we get them in and we keep this feedback loop going. On the website and on the handouts, you have a schedule of public events. This is tonight. Tomorrow, our team is going to be interviewing about 85 people chosen by me through all my discussions with people. If you weren't one of those people, don't worry about it. All viewpoints are going to be represented in this process. If you want to be interviewed, let me know. Scoping meeting, EIR scoping meeting on February 22nd. Existing conditions review, that's when we come in with the data on the 13th of March, and then the charrettes start on April 9th through the 13th. And then another one, an open house on the April 24th, and a second charrette May 21 through 24. Well over 100 hours where this door is open. The developer, well, let me just tell you, was it Larry? I haven't spoken to the developer yet.
Will the developers be involved in this process?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's a stakeholder, of course. As a viewpoint. As a viewpoint. Yeah. But I have to tell you, I mean, I'll be honest, I'll tell you too, is that I've spoken to a lot of people, and by the time We speak to the developers, we will have spoken to about 100 people. Well, more than that, okay? And that's because we want to listen to the community first. I want to listen to you guys. So, okay, let's get started. Let's get my colleague, Dan Perolik, who's from Berkeley. We've been together for many years. He probably won't speak his own accolades, but he's written a book too. Okay.
Well, good evening. Thanks, Bill, for kicking this off really well. My name is Dan Perolik, and I'm the principal of Opticos Design, and we are an urban design and architecture firm based in Berkeley, California. And I was fortunate enough, now almost 20 years ago, to actually learn this process with Bill Leonards. He brought me on to a Charrette process very similar to this one in a highly contentious project around the Pleasant Hill BART station. And I will say that that process was so contentious that we actually had armed guards at the first couple of days of the Charrettes. So if anybody can do this, I have faith that Bill can lead you as a community and us as a team through this process. But I wanted to just plant some seeds and build upon Bill's ideas here about this design thinking, because it's really why I love this process, and we've used it successfully in projects all over the country, in similar in scale and very different types of projects. And so I think I'd like to start this conversation and get you all thinking about a different way of thinking about and communicating about sort of ideas related to this project. And I call this reframing the way we talk about the program and the vision for this particular site. And we as planners, we as architects, we like to use these really abstract terms like density and floor area ratio. If you're sitting at a coffee shop talking to your friend about, this great place in Europe that you just traveled to, do you say, wow, and yeah, I was just in Rome and the density was 80 units per acre, it was fabulous, right? Or do you say, well, the floor area ratio was 3, but I wish it would have been 5, or 3.2, or 3.3? No, right? You don't. It's a really abstract way of thinking about placemaking and community building. So I want to strip away that default that a lot of us have to go to those abstract numbers, and I want to talk more about the form, scale, and character, and the quality of the types of places that you want for this particular site. So here's an example, right? Both of these photographs represent buildings with a floor area ratio of 1.2. Are they the same? Do they create a similar type of place? Absolutely not. So just as an example, both of these buildings have a density or a dwelling unit per acre of 60 units per acre. Building on the left is a 5-story podium concrete structure parking building. And the building on the right is a quaint little 2-story courtyard apartment building that generates the same density, right? Very different form, very different scale. They create a very different type of place. And so I'm just encouraging us all to sort of step away from using that terminology, and let's talk about form, scale, and character as we work our way through the process. The other important aspect of this that Bill sort of kicked off on is visualizing ideas. And right, tonight, this evening, we're going to be communicating with words. We're going to put some thoughts down on the maps, but we're building this foundation so that in this design charrette process, we can actually visualize your ideas. Because so we don't talk abstractly about, hey, we want a mixed-use walkable center. Well, what does that mean? Is it 3 stories? Is it 2 stories? Is it 1 stories? So we'll be communicating with the use of drawings. And that's a really important and powerful part of this, right? Just instead of just keeping this abstract with words, we'll be illustrating with drawings. And so I just wanted to show you some samples. And right, these drawings, this is our team. We set up this design studio in Cupertino for that 4.5 days for the 2 charrettes. We not only have the designers, we have the transportation engineers, we have the economic consultants, we have this robust multidisciplinary team that's vetting the viability of the solution so that we're not coming up with some really wonderful idea that's just not viable, or thinking about what would it take to make an idea viable. And so we'll be illustrating places that have small scale. Some of the elements might be a smaller scale. So there's just some example public spaces, setbacks, the buildings, right? To going up a little bit more, there might be some medium scale form characteristics we talk about, and we're going to illustrate them, right? You can see there are public spaces in both of these images, but they have a different character and quality and scale, and the buildings are getting a little bit different in scale as well. And then large. Small, medium, large. I think to me, that's actually, I like to say, let's start at this very simple concept of small, medium, and large and talk about what's appropriate where on the site, and then we can start talking about what sorts of uses should activate those small, medium, and large buildings and spaces. We like to illustrate, what's great already is there seems to be a lot of sort of ideas about creating high quality public spaces. Right? We want to illustrate, so we're not just drawing on a plan with some stars and asterisks and notes. We're actually showing you if we put you down into that plaza space that you all recommended we create at this corner of the site, what would that look and feel like? How would the buildings engage it? What is the size? What are the size of the buildings around it? What sort of activities are there in those public spaces? So we want to show you. And we won't hesitate to show you ideas that might be controversial or there might not be consensus on, especially at the start, because, right, we have to show those. We need to get your feedback, and we need to go back as a design team and refine based on the feedback that we get. And what would the place feel like as a pedestrian? So a lot of those drawings that I showed you were kind of from up above, which is really important for people to understand how the different pieces of the project work together, how it relates to the scale in the buildings and the neighborhoods adjacent to it. But we like to get you down on the ground. If you were going to walk down one of those new streets, what would it look and feel like? How would the buildings interface with it? So this is design thinking, and this is what we get really excited about, and this is the way that we most effectively can communicate with you all and help you get your ideas down on paper. So we use a lot of digital 3D modeling. What you'll see over the course of the Charrette, there'll be one or two people on their computer sort of putting different scales and different types of building in a model, and we'll be able to sort of circle around that and draw over the top of it. But one of the things we thought was really necessary for this project is we're actually bringing a physical model. So we're bringing a kit of parts of different types and scales of buildings that will be laid out on a large table. And so over the course of the 4.5 days of that Charrette process, we'll be putting those together to represent the drawings that we're making or the plan that we're generating based on your feedback. And we can shuffle that around as we go through the Charrette process over the course of the week. Right? And one of the things that is going to be critical here, as it is in many projects, is sort of very thoughtfully thinking about the approach to the transitions to the adjacent areas, especially where there's neighborhoods nearby. And so this is just an example, right? This was a corridor on the upper side of this drawing that the city envisioned, enabling larger mixed-use buildings. But what we carefully thought about is as you transition down this drawing and closer to that neighborhood, what is the scale that's appropriate in terms of your transition down to those? So those types of transitions we'll be thinking about, we'll be discussing, but we'll also be illustrating as they relate to the existing context. The last point that I want to make is that ultimately what this effort is about and sort of what the intent of the specific plan is to create predictable implementation of your all vision. And it's predictable for you as a community, and it should also be predictable for whoever comes in to develop this project, as long as they adhere to that vision that the community generated. And then we actually will write a set of rules called the zoning. A lot of times we call it a form-based code to create that predictable implementation of that vision. And so back to this idea of small, medium, and large, and we're going to create an operating system You know how the current zoning, if you know a little bit about zoning, uses those numeric parameters like density and FAR, and a lot of times it's tied back to use. We're saying let's pull that back and let's use this operating system of desired form. And then we'll actually map that desired form onto the site. Where is large okay? Where is medium better? And where might those transition areas require more thoughtful, maybe even small areas? And so over the course of this process, we'll talk a lot about the creation of these rules or this form-based code that create this predictable implementation. Clarity, usability, and predictability are key. How many of you can say those three terms related to any zoning code that you've either looked at in your community here, or if you've looked at and maybe worked with zoning codes in other communities, right? It's hard to say those terms in the context of talking about zoning, but that's the real goal here. Graphically clear, easy to understand, even for the community member that participated in the process. They can pick it up, very graphic, representing the ideas. And very thoughtful about the changes in scale. We think very carefully about those changes. So, right, this is just another example of, right, thinking about those transitions, starting with the larger buildings where it made sense along the lower portion of this drawing, and transitioning into medium and smaller buildings as you worked your way through the rear of this site and abutted up against those particular neighborhoods. So this is exciting. I mean, we are extremely excited to be kicking this off. It seems like we've been sort of putting this foundation in place for the last 3 to 4 months. We know you all were really anxious and to engage in this process. Even just this initial sort of vision wall exercise, I think got people's their creative minds going. And so now we are actually going to jump into the 2 exercises, correct? And do we need to go over those exercises up here, or are we just going to do them by tables? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to let Bill go over the exercises. I don't know if do you have anything on here?
No.
Okay.
Okay. It's time to get to work.
I'm just going to put the schedule back up just so that people...
Okay. By the way, there was a question earlier from somebody about, well, when will the committee be formed? And this is the committee. There's no steering committee on this project. This is designed by Charrette. Okay? And so don't worry, we like it like that. So that's important to tell you. Okay, so now let's see. Can the facilitators that we had raise their hands? Okay. Okay, distribute yourselves amongst tables. Okay? So I'm going to describe, this is going to be a really easy project. And I think what we're probably going to do, since we have far more people than we expected, guess what? Wow. We're going to have some floating facilitators. So I'm going to ask some of your tables to self-facilitate. Okay? Self-facilitate. So I'm going to ask that you get a volunteer at each table to be your facilitator. Somebody who can handle, to facilitate. I will tell you what to do, and then we will have floaters going around helping you. So staff, this is a completely different idea than we had before. We're already changing things up to go with it.
Squeeze the people that are standing into the tables. We have chairs.
We have more chairs. Any free seats? Free seats. Does anybody have a free seat next to them? No? Okay. There are seats over here. So, okay, at the tables, facilitators, give everybody 3 Post-it notes. Hand out the Post-it notes. Are they at the tables? Do we have Post-it notes at all the tables? If you do not have Post-it notes, raise your hand. Okay. Let's get the Post-it notes at the tables. Come on. Okay. While you're at it, did everybody sign in? There's a sign-in sheet, okay? Everybody sign in and introduce yourselves quickly. Then we'll get the Post-it notes, okay? Sign in intros. Okay. It always starts with a little chaos. Chaos is part of creativity. So, what you're going to do is, do we have volunteer facilitators or staff facilitators at every table? Okay. You're going to have each person, you're going to do a couple of things. Step one will be to have everybody take 3 Post-it notes and write down 3 different ideas, 3 different messages about what the site is about. So this is the current condition. Like, for instance, the site is right next to the highway and the pollution is really bad there. For instance, this neighborhood is right next to the site. This neighborhood is, very active next to the site. You need to know this about the neighborhood. Tell us what we need to know about this project as it is now. Anything. Write 3 Post-its down. Then, facilitators, once they're written down, you're going to go round robin, one at a time, one idea at a time. Try and get the ideas written on the map and put the Post-its on the board. So we want list of the ideas and drawing on map. Okay? So first one is the current situation. Just tell me, Bill, what do I need to know about this site? We're from out of town. Anything that's important to you, it's wide open. Okay? 3 rounds, round robin, go around, maps, and list. You can't screw this up. Quietly write down. When the writing is done, then go around each person. We're going to have Ben. Ben's going to work the mic. We're going to start. Are you guys ready over here? Are you guys ready? You're not ready. Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, these guys are ready. So when you do, okay, let me remind you of something, okay? It's called timing. There are 16 tables. If we take 2 minutes apiece, that's over 30 minutes. So move along. Try not to repeat ideas. Just say, we like those guys and we've got this one. So try not to repeat. Try to keep moving, and Ben will keep you moving along. So, okay, we're ready? We're going to have quiet now while we have our first table. 2 minutes. All right, table 2.
Okay, thank you. We are awesome table 2. Okay, we love Cupertino. Okay, this is exercise 1. The opportunities are Vallco is the heart of Cupertino next to Main Street. Vallco is close to Apple, which is our innovation center. Vallco is close to freeways. The challenges are that Vallco is now an empty, unused space. It was a major shopping center, and it has trees and walkable space now. Okay, exercise 2. What happened to it? Okay, sorry, I'm down here. Future ideas. All right. 1, need for housing and multi-generational housing. Okay. Number 2, gathering places, including parks, community center, a senior center, and an entertainment center. And it needs to be, in the future, walkable and bikeable places. We're done.
Thank you.
Who's next? Over here? All right.
All right, so we're table one. We identified as a major opportunity for this site housing for all types of people. And we want it to be and think that it could be an opportunity for a very lively place. It once was. And we identified as a major challenge the fact that there is a lot of community disagreement about what to do here. For the second, we were generally in agreement. We would like this to be the place you think of when you think of Cupertino. We also thought that it's a wonderful place for some sort of very futuristic, very forward-thinking transportation solutions that are smart and sophisticated, and that there needs to be some kind of green space here.
All right.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Right here, perfect.
So for the first exercise, we said that there was so much potential opportunity. There's a lot of traffic and safety, traffic congestion and safety issues. And then right now it's just sort of a hodgepodge of various things. There's entertainment, there's some retail, but it was kind of really lacking some cohesion. As a future vision, I think what we said was, this is our vision.
These guys got some drawing done.
So as you can see from our drawing, we have the future vision is a space where there's mixed retail, hospitality, office flexible space, as well as some residential space. Outdoor green space and community park was also important to us. And similar to the other groups, we'd like it for it to be a gateway entertainment destination with better mass transit and perhaps some park and ride.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I want to go around this side. Oh, you guys are it. Speaker. Yes, ma'am. Here we go.
Okay, our group, for exercise number one, the challenges are that we have a lot of vacant retail spaces, and we have not pedestrian-friendly area. And some of the opportunities are that we have existing shopping and medical facility, affordable housing, and a gathering space, and a bowling alley and an ice rink existing already. In the second exercise, we see that the future will hold open space, retail or housing, and height transitions, so that we won't have all one level but multiple levels.
Anyone else? Okay, coming.
Well, we drew nothing, we just talked. But for the first part, we really, for the current situation, it's a dead former economic driver. It has potential as a catalyst, and there are a lot of neighbor concerns around the border of Vallco. For the future, again, second, the housing issue, but again, diversity of all kinds, age, income, disability, and then also second, the green aspect, a lot of trees, open space, park, that kind of thing. And then also we second the transit, especially connectivity and opening up the wall.
Anybody on that side of the room? Any volunteers? Oh, you got, perfect.
So for our opportunities for change, it's a large opportunity site in the city for housing. There aren't a lot of those opportunities. It's the community, it's the natural community center, so there's a lot of downtown potential there. Some of our positives, it's a prime location near freeways and major thoroughfares, and it's also near a major employment site, so we looked at that as a potential positive. Thanks. For the second one, we have transit-oriented. We could have gondolas, trains, bikes, pedestrian paths, transit center for connections. Also, inclusive housing and spaces for all people. Housing should be tiered and scaled to the neighboring office and single-family homes. Not just studio apartments, but housing for families. And we also have an entertainment center, again, with amenities for families as well. We talked about mini golf, we talked about a performing arts center, not just tech-focused stuff, but also arts-focused stuff. I think that.
We agreed with what everybody's been focusing on. There were two elements that we had that hasn't been mentioned so far. One is that we felt like there was some history to the location. The name has history, and we should appreciate the fact that it has been an important part of the community for a long time and can continue to be so. And finally, when we talked about open space, we wanted to figure out how to activate it in a way that included consumer retail space, but also non-consumer space, where people could walk and sit, where there could be theater or community performances, and so that the open space was a truly mixed-use space that was activated.
Thank you. Well, great minds think alike. So for us, in the first exercise, recognizing others have said this, but it's been an unproductive asset. And on the flip side, it's really a fantastic location and an opportunity to do some real game-changing activities for the city. So in our future state, we focused on housing quite a bit, affordable housing, focusing on the whole diverse community of needs for affordable housing, whether it's assisted senior, developmentally disabled, just below market, but the whole range needs to be addressed. We want to see open space, and we want to have good setbacks. And we had, I think, a really great idea. What about reimagining Wolf Road and getting rid of it, making it a tunnel or a flyover, and creating a very large pedestrian walkway area with potential trolley, electric trolley, sort of circumnavigating the area, and especially going up and down Wolf. Thank you. Pardon me?
We were actually talking about the entire area, you know, actually going to the Apple campus, picking up Main Street, and the whole shebang.
Anyone else?
All right, we are at table 14, and for the first exercise, we talked about the historical value of the place, the walkability, and it's an ideal destination for the various communities around us. And there's a lot of services and assets already there, such as the theater, ice rink, so on and so forth. In terms of the things that we thought we could change were traffic, subpar transit, lack of housing options for a whole range, like for the whole community, and then not enough entertainment or being aware of impact on the nearby residential neighborhoods. In terms of the future vision, we kind of grouped it into 4 themes. So inclusive, diverse housing, not just for people who can afford market rate housing, but providing it for people across all ages, income, also ability, and then providing more entertainment and community services, providing more open space and walkability. I think we also talked about having some kind of pedestrian bridge across Wolf. And then lowering traffic impacts, and then also providing better transportation options, not just for drivers, but also for walkers, bikers, and people who take public transit.
All right, all the way over there, coming over.
Hi, we're here at table 10, and we agreed with pretty much what everyone is saying. We had a couple things that were specific. We actually called out the movie theater as being a really nice amenity for us. As far as opportunities for change, traffic congestion was a top one for us, as well as the fact that the current site is concrete and it's very grim. Okay. A couple of things that we pulled out: green parks at street level. Enough space that maybe we could even have a soccer field, but walking paths along in that green space. and then a couple other ones. We're walking retail with shops, meaning you could walk through the retail and also have some green element to it. It wouldn't feel like just all concrete. And affordable housing, but that's been discussed.
Good evening. Our group, many of the same themes resonated with our group. The only thing that I didn't hear in the other groups that we talked about was the regional nature of this space. It borders other cities. It's not just going to affect Cupertino, it will affect other cities. So that's both an opportunity and a challenge. As far as the vision goes, similar themes again, mixed use, retail, housing, et cetera, as well as mixed income, age, and demographics of the site and the use. Entertainment spaces, having entertainment venues, having a sense of place, a place where people can go, and as well having world-class opportunities for people to just get outside. Finally, the big thing was car-free, not carefree, car-free, that we have transit options on and around the site.
Gets extra credit because they didn't have a map. And they or a table. No table, no map. So let's hear it for these guys.
Okay, so we hear the people with no table. We agreed in the first section that it's definitely an area that needs transportation and traffic solutions. We all talked about the wasted potential of the site. We talked about the dying retail, with obviously the opportunity that comes with the site. In our second section, we focused on 4 topics. The first was affordable housing. The second was alternatives to driving. The third was mixed use. And the fourth was a wow factor, you know, when you're looking at it, something that makes you proud of Cupertino.
Everyone. Okay, so for the existing conditions that we are working through, I think our top 3 issues with the site was, well, one positive is that right now we realize that it's at kind of at the intersection of 280, and it's kind of at this like transportation art or like central point. So we think that's a good thing where it's very centrally located. But one thing that we're concerned about, and like one thing that's not good about this place is that it has a very confusing layout both on the interior and on the exterior. It's like not very intuitive to like navigate through. And then also there's concern about like what the impacts of the changes to this Vallco mall will be to the neighborhood in terms of privacy and traffic. For the future state, I think we felt pretty strongly that we hope to have an area that has like both retail and entertainment, recreational facilities, a public gathering space, and like maybe like a fitness center or something like that. So basically it's very multi-use. We also hope to find like affordable housing, you know, for people who are like service workers in the community who can't afford to live here. We'd like them to be able to live here. Also, we are looking for housing like for like not just like family groups, but for like roommate situations, or you know, so it's not just studios or not just single family homes, but for all different kinds of housing groups. And then the other thing that we hope for is kind of like a walkable, bikeable, like multimodal access to the area, both like to the outside parts and also to the interior of the space as well.
Who's the speaker over here? All right, here you go, ma'am.
Hi there. We pretty much reiterate what everyone else has said, but I did a drawing. So this is the outline of the dotted line of the existing Vallco right now. Someone said something about a hotel that was being built, so we did put the hotel in there. The green is all open space. You can see we put the open space next to the freeway. And then ours is different because we have large farms. And I happen to be a farm expert, so I was hoping I'd get my farm idea in here. But these farms are regenerative farms, which means that they produce 7 times more food than what we're used to growing. So there's the very good possibility that the food for all the people living here could be grown here. This is an eco-village idea, so it's mixed use, it's low income, affordable, and market rate. Some of our group didn't want the housing to be any taller than 3 or 4 stories, but I think we'll have to have some taller housing to accommodate low income and to give us more open space. So we have the farm, and then all the blue are housing units, and in between the housing units and the farm is a pedestrian walkway. And so everything opens out to activities looking out on either open space or a farm. And the lower level of the housing is retail. There's a lot of interest in retail at our table. And the red are all, as I say, pedestrian walkways and connectivity. I think that we echo what everyone else has said. We don't want to see cars. We want to see alternative transportation. And we want to underground the parking. But go farm.
Thank you. Anyone else? All the way over there. Okay. Kat. Excuse me. Who's the speaker here? Speaker? You?
So all the people at my table except me have been around for the entire life of Vallco, from when it was new and had lovely wooden floors to now when it's only one level and a movie theater. We've got 3 aims for Vallco. We want it to be a lively, vibrant area that has ground level retail, maybe some kind of outdoor mall, where there are ordinary stores where people can go shopping, just small stores, not fancy stores like Santana Row. And above them, we envision 4 max, maybe 5 max, depending on who you ask, of floors of housing, market rate and affordable. Things for people to do, plazas and walkable areas, the main street that we were promised for downtown Cupertino. The second aim for Vallco is some degree of social responsibility. This is a site that's rich with memories. It's a dying mall, and we'd like to see it revitalized in some way that's responsible to our community and to its aesthetics. We're going to miss the overpass and the fun architecture that was there. But we think it needs a new school to address crowding. It needs a place that people can walk safely. So we need to fix up the dangerous overpasses and intersections. And it needs some kind of public transit, light rail or BART, and bikeability. Lastly, we want some kind of environmental responsibility, both to the planet and to the people who inhabit the space. So we'd like to see shade, and we'd like to push Wolf Road underground into a tunnel, provide for underground parking and make it walkable, bring back a farmer's market on the open plazas above that. Those are our aims for Vallco.
Anyone else? Got one more table here. Okay. Who's the speaker? Who's the speaker? Okay.
This is table number 7, and it had a bunch of school people. So you can guess that a few things here that have not been mentioned. This particular location has close proximity to schools. It has the high school, Cupertino High School. It has elementary schools. And so part of the consideration has to be how that can integrate and provide opportunities, particularly for the high school kids, so that they have a place to eat, and a place to gather. There is a real opportunity there for revenue and a mixed use. The downside that hasn't been mentioned is it is an awkward piece of land. It's essentially 2 pieces separated by Wolf Road. And so that is part of the consideration. And then Lori, how would you like to talk about the vision?
Okay. So table 7, we talked about
a space where people work and live together, which incorporates a lot of ideas that have already been talked about tonight: affordable housing, combined with mixed use, but that having people, and we had some conversations around what constituted working and living here in one space and how big of a radius that incorporated, so more thinking to do around that, but that was one of our major ideas. We talked a lot about the impacts of traffic, and that, as a community, a lot of us experience the traffic patterns through the area, on our way to somewhere else, but for the residents who live nearby to Vallco, it's personal, it's part of their experience of what home is for them. And so we had some ideas around things that have already been mentioned: mass transportation, some sort of aerial connectors between maybe Apple Campus 2 or Main Street. We talked about ways to reduce traffic and or maybe even create some sort of utopia of no traffic to be of a really high priority when envisioning this space. And then we talked about indoor and outdoor spaces both. For both children and adults to explore and play. So yes to open parks and spaces, but maybe also yes to open spaces indoors to collaborate and create that sense of community for us, maybe makerspace ideas or other ways to explore ways to play both inside and outside together as a community.
I think that's it. That's it.
Did we get all the
right?
tables?
Got all the tables? Yep.
Very well done. My gosh, there's a lot of transcribing to do here. So what I'd like you to do, make sure that you have your table numbers on everything you did. Okay? Put the table numbers on there so that we can keep those things together, along with your sign-in sheets. Okay, so we know who was at the table and what you did. Okay? I want to congratulate you. This is just the beginning. I direct you to the website that is on the handout, the dates, especially the existing conditions review, and then of course the charrette. There'll be much more about the charrette coming up. The website is going to become a very participatory place where you can go and find out things, and everything that's done here and in the interviews is going to go on the website under what people are saying. You'll be able to go there and make comments, get into the conversation. Once we come up with designs, those designs will go on the website. You can comment on the designs. So, you guys are great. Thank you for coming. We'll see you again next time. Thank you. Got out of that one.